Algebra 2 Honors Cram, Study Guide, Exam 2, Flashcard 1, Summation of Complex Numbers Involving I. And what you have to note is that I is an imaginary number. What this means is I squared is equivalent to -1. Now there's no number that's a part of the real number system such that its square will be equivalent to a negative number. Therefore, this number is not real, it's imaginary. So it follows that the actual value of I is the square root of -1, okay? And the various numerical values of I repeat every 4 exponents. Let me show you what I mean by this. I to the first, as noted here, is the square root of -1. And so if you multiply I times I, you're essentially squaring the square root, which undoes the square root. So I squared is equal to -1. It follows that I to the third is equal to I to the second times I to the first, or negative square root of -1. Okay, therefore I to the fourth would really be I to the third times I, which is going to be equivalent to the negative square root of -1 times the square root of -1. And so here we have again, within this multiplication problem, we have the square root of -1 times the square root of -1, which is really just going to be equal to I squared, or -1, and a negative times a negative is going to yield a positive, because we're multiplying -1 times -1, which is really another way of saying 1, okay? So I equals square root of -1. I squared is equivalent to -1, and I to the third is equal to the negative square root of -1, and I to the fourth is simply 1, all right? Okay. Simplify 14 minus 5i plus -8 minus 19i. So what we're going to do when operating with complex numbers involving I is combine like terms treating I as a variable even though it's a constant. And a complex number is a number made up of a real part and an imaginary part. This real portion, let's call it A. It could be like negative, fraction, whatever. And the imaginary portion is containing the I. Here it's 5i and here it's 19i. So when we, if we were to combine 14 minus 8, or 14 and -8, we get 6. And if we were to combine -5i plus 19i, we're going to get 14i. Okay, so the answer is a complex numerical result, 6 plus 14i. All right, okay.